So you've signed a listing agreement and your house is about to go live and you're wondering what's next. Well, hopefully it's more than just slapping a sign in the yard. I'm Dustin over here at Mantle Realty, and I'm going to tell you the next steps as a seller you should be prepared for when listing your home. So, believe it or not, just after you sign your listing agreement, we don't wave a magic wand and voila, your property is listed. If it does, you might want to go find a new realtor. And why is that? Well, there should be a lot going on behind the scenes, whether it's professional photography, videography work, maybe even the copy from your listing that you want to have as your remarks section for the advertisement, building out landing pages, things like that. That's what your agent should be working on before it goes live. Other things that you should be doing as a seller is preparing for showings. What do I mean by that? Well, everything from putting away your laundry, folding clothes, how the property smells, what you're doing with your animals, all those kinds of things are things you need to think about before you actually even sign your listing agreement. So you're prepared whenever you get bombarded with all those showings. Phase two is actually listing your property live. And what this does is it goes out to a bunch of different websites, and whether it's realtor.com, Zillow, MLS, our own websites, newsflash, all of our feeds are pretty much the exact same. So it doesn't matter where you're looking, you're going to get the exact same things. Reason why you should use ours. But this is the honeymoon phase of your home buyers. The reason being is these people have had searches set up for these kinds of properties. They are ready to go. If you don't have a huge number of buyers looking at your property at the very beginning, whenever you list the property, that's a red flag. Now, it could be from bad marketing. It could be from price. It could be just that you're in a rural location and not a lot of action going on. But it should be a red flag if you don't have a lot of buyers. An extra tip I have about listing your property is the day to list it. Now, if you list your property, let's just say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you get an offer on one of those days and you say, oh, I'm going to hold your offer through the weekend so we can have an open house. Those buyers are going to be really pissed off. Now, on the opposite end of things, if you list the property, let's just say Thursday, Friday, somewhere around there, and you say, I'm going to hold your offers through the weekend, it doesn't seem as big of a deal. Yes, it's only a couple days, but buyers will get upset when they send you a strong offer and you say, oh, I'm going to be greedy and I'm going to hold it through an open house or through the weekend. So, pro tip, make sure your agents are listing on Thursdays and Fridays, maybe Wednesday, but that's a huge bonus tip. What's phase three whenever you're listing a property? What's going to be those showings, offers, feedbacks, and making adjustments. And what I mean by that is sometimes we might want to price a little bit high because we're all getting paid better whenever it sells higher as an agent, as a seller. But sometimes we might miss the mark, whether it's bad marketing or bad photos, or just look at the feedback as a whole and take that feedback with an open mind from somebody who has no attachment to your property. So they might tell you it smells bad. They might tell you it's cluttered. They might tell you it's dark. There might be some things that you can do to help other potential buyers be interested in the property. You also sometimes can get feedback from people be like, well, we love the property, but we need to replace the carpet in there. And so it's not worth it. Maybe you're willing to give an allowance for a carpet replacement. So you might be able to use that kind of feedback as negotiation. One big tip about feedback is not everybody's going to give feedback, and a lot of agents are lazy and they're not going to give good feedback. As a seller, just remember this: no feedback is bad feedback. If it is good feedback, then they're going to tell you, we are interested in this property. Let us know if you have any other offers. If they don't want to give you feedback, they're not interested. And us agents, yes, we want to know just as much as you do about showing feedback, but sometimes agents are just lazy and not going to tell us. Phase four, when listing a property, is you're under contract. So congratulations. Well, this is the hurry up and wait game. It is very time consuming in the fact of, yes, you're not going to have as many people bombarding you with showings and things like that, but your buyer, at least in North Carolina, has a due diligence period. And what that means is they can do any and all inspections that they want to during this time frame. So this could be anything from a regular home inspection, HVAC, swimming pools, septic tanks, appraisals, things like that. So you have to have that property open per the offer to purchase for them to be able to do all these home inspections. Other things that the offer to purchase actually says here in North Carolina is that you have to have the utilities kept on. Yes, if you own a vacant property, you cannot turn the utilities off whenever you go to sell. That property has to be in the exact same condition as whenever they sign that offer. whether it's the landscaping outside or something that breaks inside, whether it's a HVAC, dishwasher, things like that, you have to put it back in the exact same condition. This goes for you as the seller and them as the buyer too. So this is the hurry up and wait game of real estate. Phase 5 when listing a property is actually going to be the negotiation end of things. And what I mean by this is after they've done their inspections and had their appraisals, they might ask for different things, whether it's a reduction in price or something to be fixed. Now, here in North Carolina, your offer to purchase says that you are selling the property in as is condition. So, legally, no, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to drop the price. You don't have to give them any concessions, but they also have that opportunity of walking away. So, let's just say the property doesn't appraise. They can either bring the money, you can reduce the price, or they can all walk away. This is a huge deal and very stressful for a lot of people. So don't be alarmed whenever you see a large home inspection report that's coming in. If you are one of those people that stress out a lot about this, a big tip I'd have is to pre-inspect your property and go ahead and have those huge items fixed and disclose all the small ones that you weren't willing to do. This will make the process way smoother and way easier as a whole. Next step in listing a property is going to be the closing prep. And notice it is the prep for the closing and not the closing itself. Why, you might ask? Well, I've seen deals fall apart at the 11th hour. Yes, I don't mean to alarm you, but it does happen sometimes. And that's the reason why here in North Carolina, you need to have some earnest money. It protects you off of somebody leaving right before closing. So what's your prep for closing? First of all, it's going to be packing up everything that you've gotten. So you can't wait until closing day to move everything out. Yes, it would be nice to be able to do all that, but you need to have a plan put in place of where you're going to store your things and not wait until closing day to move everything out. It never happens as smooth as what you think it is. Other things that you need to plan on is changing your utilities, telling your insurance company, getting your keys all together, things like that, preparing for closing day itself. So last up is what we all want to have, closing day. And at closing day, you're going to sign a lot of paperwork, and that's whenever you're going to get your big fat check, hopefully. Now, one thing that you need to be aware of is that buyers don't get the keys until the property is recorded, if your realtor is good and honest. We don't want to hand over those keys beforehand because at closing, it can be extremely stressful. Let's just say a property is supposed to close on a Friday and it doesn't actually record at the courthouse until Monday. Well, you've gave them the keys, who has insurance, who's responsible for anything that happens to the property. So all that can happen. So all this to be said is hopefully after you sign that listing agreement with your agent, you realize that it's not just putting a sign in the yard and that there's much more going into it. If you got any questions on your listing or what you should be doing to prepare for your listing, please feel free to reach out or comment below. Thanks.